Oh. Can you hear me? Cool. I just needed to restart the thing. So let me actually explain what I was trying to do before. Um, so last week when I did this last week, I went into a full blown like channeling state, like what Daryl's doing, and it was kind of amazing. What I want to do is, if any of you like, fourth, if you have questions that you'd like answered that you would normally want to ask Bashar, feel free to ask them. I want the transmission that we're going to be watching today is the future of the past. This is one that's already up on YouTube, so this isn't a brand new transmission. It's from 2016. I want to go back and look at a lot of these old transmissions from where we are now. I'm not actually the one putting this up on YouTube. It's already up there if you want to watch it without me talking, but yeah. Yeah. I am not a first contact specialist. I had a full-blown vocal channeling session for was vocal channeling for like 2 minutes last week. And I can tell you, after that actual like stream, the next day I felt something had shifted and completely changed in me. And I would love to go back into that state, to that level of like someone else taking over my body. Because I can tell you, from like actually having the person take over my body for a minute, it was the most loving, unconditionally loving, and the most non-judgmental, and also just the most assured energy I have ever experienced. So so if you guys have questions throughout the stream and you would love to actually ask, feel free, because I'm just starting at the whole vocal channeling thing, so it's not like I can't hold for very long before the connection drops. So I actually need people to help me like practice it. So, yeah, there's a couple of us. So the transmission that I have up here today is the future of the past. It's a transmission from 2016. I will let you know when it comes in that I can actually do it. It just kind of happened last week. I've been kind of working towards it for a while, but it just kind of happened last week, where I just felt like I felt a face on top of mine, and then also I felt something actually in control of my hands, and it just kind of happened. I'm still very novice at this. Like, I've done it once successfully where it was something else entirely that was not me. And I can tell you, I was completely dumbstruck for like a day, for like almost a day afterward. But I actually got to the point, if you go back and watch the end of the stream from last Monday, if I looked lost, it's because I really was. It was funny as hell. Yeah, it was super liberating. Like, I give props to Daryl and Tyler and a lot of the other channelers who've been doing it for a while, because honestly, that was freaking intense and cool as hell to have that experience of like the energy just flow through me. Oh, it's at least the one that came through last week was my counterpart in Bashar Civilization, in the Sasani Civilization, and he has a much different personality than I do. It was cool. I'm gonna try to do both things, where I'm reading the question and then answering when time does come up. When I'm able to actually have that come through me, and I will say my body will say, this is, please ask your question. Right now, I'm not in that state, but it's happened, kind of happened last Tuesday, but also that's kind of what happened is I'll look a little lost for a second, look like I'm acclimating, and then all of a sudden my personality and my demeanor will change, and it will just ask you to ask the question. Oh, his name is not Ethereum, it's Etham. At least that's the name he's given me for the time being. So I'm just keep in mind, everyone, I am just getting the hang of this. I've done this maybe twice, maybe the second time, but the first time for like a full like minute or two, and I was just kind of gone. I will gladly try. I will do my best to bring it through again because that was fun. So, but yeah, no, his name is Etham. Maybe he'll expand on it. Like that's just the name he's given, the vibrational name, or the name he's given me in order to facilitate contact. So, anyways, today. Let's watch The Future of the Past. Watch for me to stop it and say, please ask your question, because that's the time to like ask the question. So let's begin.
Oh, let us say good day to you, everyone. How are you all? All right, thank you. Let us begin this transmission with the title that we have chosen, called The Future of the Past. Let us begin by allowing us to read you a newspaper headline. JFK.
Absolutely, and that's actually what it represents. What that personality represents is emerging between my physical mind and my higher mind.
Assassinated today in Boston, Massachusetts. This date, November 9th, 1968. What does this mean? This is a parallel reality, different from the one you now consider to be your history. And of course, there are many other versions of this scenario. We once shared with you that another version of your history that you experienced before the present one allowed this particular individual, your President Kennedy, to survive until your 1980s. But the one that we have mentioned today...
The transmission he's talking about is the parallel reality wheel, or it's one of the transmissions he did in Vegas. I was actually there for that one. That was actually a pretty cool one to actually be in person for.
Day, November 9th, 1968, has a particular meaning to the history that you believe you remember. The idea is that history is not linear. It is holographic and is made of many different kinds of intrusion.
So while he's saying this, I want to actually, so you can get a better idea and understanding of what he's talking about. If you have, how many of you guys have actually watched the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once? That's actually how we shift from timeline to timeline. It's that consciousness shift. It's not necessarily that you're shifting your body. It's actually that your consciousness shifts from different timelines. And that's realistically actually where I've gotten to, where I've jumped timelines like that.
Of parallel realities, at the very least, if not the events themselves, the effects of other events in other realities color what you consider to be your linear history. So to continue this example, the idea to remember is that what you think of history is always changing, always. when you as a collective group decide to
So, if you guys have ever heard the Mandela effect, that's actually what he's describing. That's remnants of realities that you've shifted through that you remember. That's why he's explaining the actual mechanism that goes with the Mandela effect.
shift to a particular parallel reality path, remember that as you become a new society, as you become new people, you also create a new history.
Bernstein versus Bernstein Bears, or any number of other things that actually
go along with that, to make sense out of the choice that you made in the present. Because the past is created from the present, not the other way around. So you have had many histories that you are now unaware of, because every time you change, you wipe the slate and create a new history that appears to be the only history you've ever had. So several years ago, you actually had a different history than what you remember now. But you don't know that. But because we can see the bigger picture and all the lines.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this, just given what I've got, just that shift I made last week, just barely being exposed to this in front of you guys while this is going on, I'm actually, like, it's elevating me very rapidly, and I can feel the shift happening.
Of intersecting energies between different parallel realities, we can see the path that you've taken. In this particular case, let's say one of the original history choices you made was that your President Kennedy was in fact assassinated in 1968. The reason for this is because near the end of his second term, he was about to reveal the existence of extraterrestrials. The idea is that it actually was revealed. And in that particular parallel history caused so much chaos and so much collapse in your society that he was labeled as the cause of it. And someone assassinated him for that reason.
And that's why we're going through the process right now of what we've been going through for the last 40 years of Bashar bringing information through. And then also that's why we're going through this process now versus what he's talking about happened with John F. Kennedy.
Now, because of the societal collapse in that particular history that went along with the revelation of our existence, you decided to shift as a society and take another path. And to prevent it from happening, you chose a history where he died in 1963. And therefore never had a chance to reveal what he had planned to reveal. However, to illustrate the point that your history isn't linear, that it is affected by ripples from other parallel realities all the time.
So here's my question to anyone that's watching this in stream. What are things that you distinctly remember, like things in your life that are like, hey, it's that way? I always remember being this other way of like the Mandela effect. This is really what he's describing with a lot of this is just the Mandela effect.
Because the original assassination occurred in 1968, based on the idea of the collapse of society, it created a very strong eddy, a very strong current in the fabric of space-time. So even when you shifted your collective consciousness to the idea of a history in which he died in 1963.
By the way, I've seen this transmission many times, but I've never actually sat there and like, I'm getting more out of it right now. Like on an energetic level, I'm actually getting a lot more out of this.
Effects from the original 1968 still existed and still impacted the new history, which is why Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King were assassinated in 1968. So if you begin to understand how...
So if you paired this transmission with the one from last year, which is the parallel reality wheel, it lines up totally with what he's saying there, and also what he's saying, what he said then, and then what he said in 2022 with the parallel reality wheel.
How this actually works, you can see that what you consider to be a linear history back in time is actually composed of many different parallel reality ripples and effects that all come together and change every single time that you change your idea of what your present is. That then changes what your idea of your history ought to be in order for that history to have brought you to the new present that you're at, because you still have to do it in a linear way to play the physical reality game.
And the more you start shifting into that higher frequency, it actually becomes it's starting to become more euphoric when I'm actually experiencing even remotely a higher level energy at this point. I'm actually feeling very kind of loopy at the moment.
But in understanding this holographic nature of history, you can never really look at the idea of history in a linear way again. You will understand that it is a composite of many different overlapping realities, and it is constantly dynamically changing every time you make any change whatsoever. Not just the societal level, but your own personal histories as well, because as you become a new person, every time you redefine yourself, you create a new history for yourself. Now, if it seems to be the same,
you're constantly shifting through parallel realities, so it's never exactly the same reality that you were just in.
Again, this is because you have wiped the memory of the old history, and the new history must appear to be the only history that's ever been there in order for it to make sense for the person you've defined yourself to be in present. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't sometimes choose to recreate similar events over and over and over again every time you define yourself and create a similar history to some degree. This does happen because most of you have an agreement not to necessarily go too far in breaking the continuity of your mass consensus reality.
But when you do, it's a lot of fun, and it really screws with your head, especially when you first start experiencing reality that way.
About what your history ought to be based on who you consider yourselves to be or define yourselves to be in the present. Nevertheless, this points out that you always, every single moment, have a choice to change your past as you change your present. And to understand that the more you wrap your mind around
how you doing?
the more you allow yourself to understand how this works and how it's structured more holographically.
We're watching the future of the past. This is already up on YouTube if you want to watch it without me, or you can go to Bashar.org and support them there.
You have more opportunity to, within relevant parameters for your life, break that continuity more and more and more.
And that's the stage we're all at right now.
And the breaking of that continuity will create more, shall we say, fluidity and flexibility within how you experience space and time, which means you will experience an increase in synchronicity, which is physical reality's linear space-time way of showing you that all things exist at once, that they're all interconnected. You will increase your experiences.
I've done actually a few private sessions with Rayo. I actually would love to get Tyler on here and just do like an actual interview with him. Maybe bring Rayo in, but just like actually do an actual interview with like Tyler, because frankly, I think I need his help so I can learn to completely, fully put myself in this state at will and connect properly, because I'm like, I have some of that energy starting to bleed through right now. I actually have some of Tyler's stuff, but he's asked people not to put the paid sessions up, and I'm respecting his thing. This is already up on YouTube, so I'm just watching it from that.
Of things like deja vu, which is experiencing the idea of the forward arrow of time and the backward arrow of time simultaneously, because you have the feeling in deja vu that you know what's about to happen because it feels like it's already happened before. So you're getting both arrows of...
No, I've never done Daniel Skeleton. If you guys have anyone you'd like me to review, or anyone that you'd like to actually go and sit and watch together with, please put it in the chat, and I will compile a list and then figure out which ones that are most relevant for us to watch.
Time simultaneously by expanding your consciousness to incorporate that idea. You will increase many other kinds of experiences in physical reality. But what it will mostly allow you to do when you really understand this concept is truly be more lucid in the physical reality dream, and truly be more conscious about the kinds of choices you are making, the kinds of ways in which you define yourself and what's true for you, and exactly what that does to the entire linear space-time reality when you do that. And it will give you more understanding of how you are creating your reality experience, because physical reality is just a projection. It's just a dream. And it's all about becoming more and more lucid in the physical dream and waking up in that lucidity. And then knowing more and more, and again, whatever way is relevant for you, that you can bend the idea of space and time, because you're actually doing it all the time anyway. It's just that you're becoming more conscious of the mechanism that you're using. That's what's going on in this transformational age. You're becoming more conscious of what you're already doing. It's no longer being seen in an illusionary way as if it were real. You're beginning to break through the veil and see it for the illusion that it is. Now, this won't completely go away while you still choose to be physical, but it will give you a lot more flexibility in how you experience your physical reality. It will still always be relevant. Whatever comes up will always be relevant for the life path you chose, for the theme you chose to explore. It won't go beyond that relevance. But there are different degrees of relevance for many different people.
Hold on one second, because this is trippy. This is way more energy than I was perceiving last time I actually watched this. No, it's Tyler. Ryo is something else entirely. Well, no, he's still Sasani, but the information that he brings through is different than what Ryo. The information that he starts disseminating is more about the esoteric stuff and like magical systems and alchemy. Bashar is just meant there for the masses to be able to like come in contact with more people and start understanding things from a wider perspective, whereas Ryo is more specific. Shale was essentially someone, he was one of the precursors to like Bashar as far as like Sasani first contact specialist. Then you got Rohan, which is a newer channel person that's for and also I don't want my ego like inflated. I don't need that. That just gets in the way. Rohan is more of he's another Sasani that's coming through someone else, and he's more of an individual basis thing versus each of the different Sasani have a specific role that they play. My counterpart is a explorer who likes to explore and understand things in different dimensions, and he's shown me stuff which is really interesting. Yeah, you're starting to perceive things at a higher frequency. That's actually a natural part of the expansion of your consciousness. When you're able to when you're starting to perceive those things, you're just perceiving a higher frequency
on your planet. So many of you will start to experience more magical experiences.
Keep in mind, I've been a teacher for many lifetimes. That's kind of like an archetype that's inside my soul that I've done lifetime after lifetime.
In physical reality, you will see that it is more flexible, more synchronous, and always has been. It's just, again, that you're becoming more and more aware of it. So the idea is that in the future, your history will really start to more consciously match what you define yourself to be in the present. So the future of history, the future of the past, is very open, very flexible, and you're beginning to understand that the past is just as indeterminate as the future is.
So this is why anytime he talks about human origins or different times for like the Atlantean civilization or Lemuria, or you've heard different actual dates as to when they existed, because the past is fluid and it's not in a fixed position like most people think it is.
That the probabilities of what might become your future also are the probabilities of what might become your past. Because these are both projections from the only place you actually exist, the present. That's all there is. There is only here, there is only now. So everything that is happening, everything that you think will happen, everything you think has happened, is just another projection, another reflection, another perspective of the now. And that's why when you change the now, everything else has to change, both the future and the past, because they're just reflections of what you're defining yourself to be now, and are as ephemeral as a reflection in a mirror. They do not have real solidity. You play the game that they do, and that's fine. But now is the time to allow yourself some leeway, some permission to break that continuity to the degree that truly serves you, to experience yourself as the creator of your reality experience.
And that's why we're at the point we are now, where like a lot of realities are starting to diverge from the reality that we were in when this transmission came through in the first place. And also that's what the whole Trump presidency yada 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 was there to, like, kind of break us loose of what we were there for. I don't like Trump personally, but he did his job and then left. Fantastic.
Because remember, as we have said before, your natural state is one of spirit. You're all still in spirit right now. It's just that you're dreaming that you're not. That's what physical reality is. You have never left spirit. You can't leave spirit, but you can dream that you can. And that's what this is. And we're sharing that dream together by agreeing to do so. And remember that you are redefining yourself billions of times per second. Your consciousness is slipping through billions of parallel reality frames per second. So at any given moment, you are always back to zero. You always have a clean slate. You always have the ability to redefine yourself in whatever way is truly relevant for the theme you chose to explore. And there's a lot of leeway in that. None of you are stuck in any way, shape, or form, especially not in this day and age. This is all about understanding consciousness, that you are an expression of consciousness, and that time and space are your illusions to play with, are your projections, are your tools to discover yourself from a new perspective.
And this is why I'm doing these transmissions, in order to actually expand upon what he has said. And also to share the energy in a more collective manner than just watching these by yourself.
A new point of view. Because if you don't forget who you are, you can't remember who you are from another point of view. That's why you have this physical dream. To discover a new idea of yourself, a new perspective of yourself, a new relationship to all that is of yourself as an aspect of all that is. Does this make some sense to you?
Absolutely. I can feel something kind of trying to come through right now. So if you guys want to put some really quick little short questions in the chat, I'd appreciate that, because I'm halfway trying to do both things myself, which is the channeling and then also reading the questions. So I'm kind of in a half in, half out state at the moment. So, yeah. No, 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 not Bashar's daddy. No, it's nothing like that. It's I've just been a teacher for many lifetimes. It's just kind of it's part of my archetype of who I am as a person, who I am as a soul. And what is it getting you to learn how to do? What are the principles and the things that you are confronted with? Many of the people that you are referring to have existed as the opposite gender many times, and they have become used to that way of being. So them not remembering that they made the choice to make the opposite position of being a masculine being or a feminine being, they also have chosen to take the opposite to balance out the energy of staying as one sex for too many lifetimes. But on a higher level, as a collective, what are you actually approaching in order to experience and also to be able to encounter in your own being? Which parts of this of their experiences is bringing up inside of you that you're allowing yourself to not filter, or the things you are not in your own being, in your own experience, that you're not allowing yourself to reach, but through the experience of dealing with people who are switching between the masculine and the feminine energy, which you all actually already contain and all actually allow yourself to be and or have seen inside of yourself, because this is natural. Inside of the Sasani civilization, we contain both, and we more express as a homogenous. There's very little distinct difference between a masculine or feminine Sasani. We are more non-physical in nature, so we express more as a whole being instead of just purely masculine or purely feminine. Inside of you, what is being brought up by having the experience of dealing with someone that is actually trying to change the gender that they incarnated on? Usually, a lot of times, it comes in the form of the expression of he is still having trouble bringing us through because it is more energy than he's used to. Okay, I'm back. Anyways, yeah, no, if this happens again, I will bring it back through, but just feel free to ask more questions if an actual answer starts coming through. But the answer basically that was just brought through me is, what inside of you in interacting with the people that are expressing themselves in that way, what is that bringing up in you that you need to deal with, or that you are approaching through your experience? Like, what is that? What are the things inside of you that you're struggling to deal with because you've been implicitly told that life is one way? So the answer is actually it's giving you a chance to deal with things that have been hidden under the surface. So Yeah, that was cool. That was a little better than last week. Like I said, if there's more questions along the way, please ask them. I'll try to take a second to actually stop and allow things to come through. By the way, I am just in the process of learning how to do this so I can actually more effectively do it. I don't know how long I can hold any of these the connection. Just kind of keep that in mind. So yeah, I'm going to turn this back on, and when I feel it building back up to where I can ask another question, yeah. But right now it dropped back down. But I got to practice this more so it becomes a natural thing. Okay.
All right. So, we share that idea with you, that history is always changing, never static, exactly to the same degree.
By the way, that was way easier to take than last week. Yeah, that was fun.
That you believe your future probabilities change. But you, here, squarely in the middle, in the now, in the present, the fundamental you never changes. The structure of your consciousness never changes. The expression of it does.
Well, I've meditated for years, and I do other things besides just like vocal channeling. So this is already kind of in my wheelhouse of things I know how to do. It's just I need practice at doing it consistently.
Form of it does, but the basic fundamental you will always be.
Besides, I've already had contact with that energy, so that is a little more easy for me to actually bring through. It's just I need to be able. I need to be able to hold the. I need to be able to hold the energy longer, and allow it to come through much more quickly, so I'm able to like be in that state for longer periods of time. Because I still feel resistance within me that I need to like. That I'm allowing to move on, but it's more from not feeling confident in doing it yet.
Be you. It will always be your perspective from which you are having any experience of a future or a past. It will always be from your perspective that you will have any experience of physical or non-physical reality. It will always.
No, I am not. I am not fully and finally enlightened. All I'm doing is acting as a conduit for that being to come through me. That is not. That is not me going through the enlightenment thing. I'm just being a conduit. That's all.
Always be you from your perspective that will have any experiences of other dimensions, other realms, other parallel realities, anything you can imagine. It will always be you having the experience because you are the constant. You are the structure that never changes. But your relationship to yourself, your perspective of yourself, always changes. Your experience of yourself always changes. And you get to decide in what direction it will change.
And that's what I'm going through right now with doing the channeling stuff.
The more lucid you become in this physical dream, the more you surrender to your true self, the more you will realize that surrender is actually control. Because
Speaking of surrender, I need to have someone that sits there and asks me the questions so I can just be in the state and I don't have to switch back and forth between trying to physically read things and then also physically like do the channeling thing. Like, I need to find someone to do that portion of this with me.
because you are already in control. You've just forgotten that you are. So remind yourself and play with this idea of holographic history and see the bigger picture so that you can understand the relationship of how parallel realities work together to create not only the probable future, but the probable past, and how this informs you so that you can make more aligned, more harmonious decisions about who and what you choose to be in the present. Does this make sense? All right. Well,
You are special because you exist. That's all you need. It's not really that complicated. And also, if you sit there and say, So one of my teachers I've had that I actually miss this person quite a lot. Anytime that someone would walk up to her and go, I'm a shaman. I'm a shaman. True enlightenment is a quiet thing. It's just a knowingness that you are more than just this physical life. Walking around thinking you're better than people is actually more of an ego trap. I have gone through that moment myself. The moment of waking up, and I can tell you the process of waking up is way more intense, and it lasts way longer than you think it's going to. Because remember this, what did Buddha do the moment after he actually went home, or after he said, I am now enlightened, after he was done sitting under the tree for 20 years? He went home and washed his bowl and spoon and swept the floor. So anyways, I don't have that connection at the moment, Sky. Just when I will make you the next person when I actually have that energy come back up in me, and I'll... Typically the answer is you probably do have hybrid children, because that's usually if you're interested in this kind of information, or Ryo or any other channel from the Sasani civilization. Typically speaking, you do have actual children.
We thank you for allowing us to share this idea with you this day of your time. And in return for the gift of sharing that you are giving us, I ask now, in what way may we be of service to you?
And also keep in mind the Yael are a completely separate species. You're talking about if you have hybrid children.
You may begin with your questions and dialogues if you wish.
I don't know that right now. I honestly don't know. I don't I don't have access to that information right offhand. Because I can only maintain the connection for a short time. I don't have all that kind of information right off hand.
As a line from a recent movie on your planet said, don't be shy. Step into the light.
Hi, Bashar.
And you good day. Speak up and be bold and share what you have to share so that all may hear.
Okay. My question is, when we make contact with these evolved celestial beings.
You mean like you're doing right now?
Yes. Or when we
clear.
get to see them. My question is, as a human being, like where do we focus our attention in our body? Since we are intuitive, sensitive beings.
Yes. Where do you focus your intention?
Yes.
Your center of intention is in your solar plexus. But the idea in general is to allow the system of your body to work in a holistic way and not necessarily focus too much on the details of the system, except when and where it seems appropriate to do so. But the way in which, as we have often said, you allow the whole system to work and allow your...
Be the piece that you are, because then the machine just works automatically.
Your intention to be automatically focused where it needs to be, when it needs to be, is by acting on your highest excitement to the best of your ability with absolutely no insistence on a particular outcome.
It's the formula! Who knew?
That's the formula that allows the system to work holistically, and everything that needs to happen in that system, including the idea of where your intention needs to be focused, will fall into place if you simply follow the formula, because that's the activation formula. Does this make sense?
So does that mean your heart and your solar plexus? Because it feels like if I'm excited, I'm in
We understand that you will feel the energy move. Let us give you a little bit of a scenario or pathway of the energy. You have the higher mind, yes, non-physical.
Yes.
The higher mind delivers a vibrational, resonant energy. You can call it information if you wish.
The physical mind receives, and the egoic mind, the personality, perceives.
and it goes and is received, in a sense, by both the brain and the heart. The heart will take the pure vibration and reflect it back to the physical mind, and the physical mind will filter that vibration from the higher mind that gets bounced back from the heart, filter it with the belief systems that are most predominant in the physical personality. And then from the idea of the third eye, the heart, and the chakra of intention will go out and reflect the idea of creating your physical reality experience.
Sky, as I read the energy right now, 10.
Does that help?
Absolutely.
Now, the idea is to understand parallax. Parallax is the idea that your eyes are a certain distance apart so that when they focus on a certain point, you see your physical reality in what you call three-dimensionality. You understand?
Yes.
But there is another kind of parallax, and it goes not this way, but this way. So you have the idea of the higher mind and the physical persona and the heart and the chakra of intention.
So if you didn't know why he always had those crystals on either side of him, because it acts like a three-dimensional holographic camera, so people on other end can actually see what's happening in that room.
And it works in this way and sends out another energy in a parallax this way that takes what you're seeing and solidifies it for you by creating a parallax of feeling so that the reality feels real. Because without that parallax, without that energy parallax, your reality would actually seem unreal, even though you were looking at it. You understand?
Yes.
So you're reinforcing the vision with the feeling and creating a holistic experience. But that's the basic system of how you project and then reflect the idea of your physical reality in very simplistic terms.
For the second person that asked hybrid children, as we read it, 12. Okay, back to it.
Does this help you?
It does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
So keep in mind, I can only maintain any of the... When I have these connections, I can only maintain them for a very short period of time. So if you ask the question, that's why I said just put your question in the chat, and then when the connection comes through, I'll just I'll put the answer out.
I love you.
Oh, all right. We love you too.
Thank you.
But I got to practice at this so I can maintain the connection longer. But also at the same time, for anyone watching these things, when they want to ask the questions, I can only maintain the connection for very short periods of time right now, and I need to probably get someone to actually do the physical side of things so I can just sit there channeling and allow that energy to come through me and just be the conduit.
Hi, Bashar.
And you good day.
To start with, I just wanted to express my appreciation for us being able to speak today.
Our gratitude and appreciation to all of you as well for the co-creation of the interaction.
So, continuing from what you've just explained to us,
Yes.
why some of us as human beings still insist on holding on to memories that are often painful of what we consider to be our past and say that
Give me a second. I'm gonna actually physically try to get this to come through. No. That ship was an Earth ship. Very limited range.
That they shaped us and that we are the person we are, we can't change.
Because you've been taught to believe that that's true. It's just a belief. That's all. If you're holding on to something that you don't prefer, the only way you would ever do that is there must be an unconscious belief you're unaware of that for some reason is making that action seem to actually be to your benefit.
I think what I'm going to do sometime soon is I'm just going to sit down and go into the state and then completely drop out and then just have a camera running while I do it and just not pay attention to it and just allow it to like be in control and let it, the personality bring through whatever information it wants to.
Even though you know it's not. Because you don't hold on to anything you don't believe to be to your benefit. So if you are holding on to something that you can see is not to your benefit, yet you keep doing it, you have to get in touch and find out what that belief must be, because this goes back to what we call the motivational mechanism. This mechanism means you will always choose in the direction of what you believe to be to your benefit, and you will always move away from what you believe is not to your benefit. So if you see yourself, once you understand that mechanism, if you see yourself choosing in the direction of what is not beneficial, that...
Sky, the thing you got to remember about like me practicing this, I don't have someone actually to answer the question or to ask the question, so I have to go in back and forth. So it takes, I'm essentially practicing doing both things, which are essentially two different jobs simultaneously. And I am not practiced enough to be able to just switch back and forth simultaneously like that. I'm paying attention to the chat as much as possible, but just keep in mind I'm not gonna be able to answer most of the questions because I don't have like a lot of. This is all brand new for me to be able to actually do this well.
must mean you have a belief attached to it that makes it seem more beneficial than the alternative, even though you know the alternative would actually be to your benefit. So you have to find out how you're defining that thing you know.
Because I can feel the energy going back and forth and raising up and down, up and down. It's not consistent enough to be able to give you guys full answers and full, like, to be able to be just in that state. My counterpart, you mean? He is not a first contact specialist. That's not what he does. He's just he's an explorer of realities and consciousness. If you give me a second, hold on a sec. Okay. I'm here to help you explore your own consciousness. And unmask the people who resonate with the message that is being brought through. I am not like the Bashar. And the connection's lost. Like I said, I don't have enough experience yet to be able to actually allow this to come through more smoothly. Like I said, I'm having you guys ask questions so I can bring through what I can so I get more practice at it. And it's hard to get good at things you don't have practice at. Like I said, right now, I probably need to find someone for the next time I do one of these so they can ask the questions for me. So I can just sit there and focus on channeling and also expanding on what he's saying. So. No, but there are some in Southeast Oregon. Closer down to Mount Shasta. I know that one. And there's also Mount Adams essentially has a freeway on and off ramp. If you go up towards Mount Adams, they have essentially an interdimensional doorway right there. So that's why there's so many ships going in and out of that area.
Is not beneficial to make it appear to be more beneficial than the alternative. So you can ask yourself things like, what would I have to believe is true in order to keep choosing something like this? You can ask, what am I afraid will happen if I actually stop choosing?
I'm also going to say this for if you guys have ever done channeling before, which I'm still very, very new at getting to this point. It's very jarring going back and forth between having that energy and then being in this energy. I'm like, yeah, no, that's way more intense, but this is also like jumping back and forth is kind of disorienting.
This, and those kinds of questions can help reveal the belief to you, expose it, bring it into the light, make it conscious so you can identify it. Because once you really consciously identify a belief that is negative, that is out of alignment with your true vibration, it will suddenly appear absolutely illogical, absolutely nonsensical, and as soon as it appears nonsensical, it's gone. That's not the beginning of the process of letting it go. As soon as something appears to make no sense, that's the end of the process. It's gone.
Yeah, no, if I can get someone at some point to be able to like just be my person in the chair and we can do a live stream like that, I will be more than happy to do that. But for now, this is going to be a lot of back and forth, and I'm not quite practiced enough to be able to switch back and forth and still get completely back in that state.
Does that make sense?
Of course it does. And then obviously the unconscious belief becomes a choice for some of us, because some people will still choose to continue going that route.
Hence the importance of asking the question, because if you understand that this is becoming a choice, now you have something to work with. Now you're empowered to deal with it. Where if you just say, oh, it's a habit, it's a pattern, I can't help it, you're lost. You have nothing to work with. But when you understand that a habit...
I will say right now, from going back and forth, even a little bit that I've done so far, my whole body's just kind of buzzing right now.
It's something you do you don't know you're doing, then you understand that as soon as you are aware of the habit, it's not a habit anymore, it's a choice. And then you can say, well, why would I make that choice? Now you're on the path to discovering the belief and letting it go. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Does that help?
Of course.
Oh, all right. Anything else?
Yes.
Yes.
In terms of, I'm working with people that very often are affected by bacterial parasitic infections.
Yes.
That obviously they perceive that limit their lives, so they're not able to live.
What is the limitation teaching them? Like, if you just perceive everything as just a limitation, doesn't have a positive effect, that's all you're ever going to get.
their full potential. What is the purpose of
Well, you
creatures
have
like
to take it
parasites
on
in our life?
You have to take it on a case-by-case basis because everything serves a purpose. And you have to take it on each person's basis as to why they would attract themselves to that experience symbolically, what it does for them to have that experience if they're looking at it that way.
I don't really have a Yael counterpart that I've connected to, so I don't have that information. Like, when I'm just being me like this, I don't actually have access to that information. It takes a minute for me to get back into that state. And also pay attention to all the other stuff I'm doing. I don't have enough concentration yet to be able to actually just shift back and forth.
No pun intended.
And obviously, from more general perspective, in terms of our planet Earth having beings like that present, like parasites and bacteria, what's the purpose?
Well, again, you're creating your reality. And if you understand that you are harboring belief systems that limit you, then there will be reflections of that in the outer reality.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, of course it does. And it's always going to be a choice, obviously, because parasitic infections is just handing your power over to someone else and not believing that you're capable.
That's
Is that
usually
correct?
the origin of
Yeah.
it, energetically, yes.
I'm kind of in a dazed state right now. I'm not going to lie. So this is... and the third season of Star Trek Picard was excellent.
Okay.
Now, once you create that origin point energetically, because you believe you are actually experiencing a real physical reality, there is going to be a physical component that will manifest as a reflection of the deeper energetic belief. But in that case, then, sometimes those reflections, such as parasites, can actually be those helpers helping you to transform that belief.
That's
Because
what-
sometimes many people on your planet have a difficult time finding those beliefs.
One moment. By going through the process you are now, it is the process that will prepare you for the interactions. This connection is not yet stable.
But when they have a physical experience, it's easier for them to assess what's going on. It's something they can get a hold of, and it's something they can deal with and work on more easily than keeping it in what they consider to be a nebulous form.
I appreciate the support, but I'm still just kind of getting the hang of this. If I can actually get it to where I can flip back and forth pretty much instantly, that would be ideal.
Of energy.
That's what just came to me, actually, that the parasites, because they have an ability to...
I don't think it's actually more of getting woke. It's, as I've heard Bashar say, and also kind of what's come through me, is NRIO and everyone else, it's going through that process of letting go of those negative belief systems and letting go of those things that limit you, that allow you to get to the state and to the point where you're prepared enough to actually have contact on that level. It's just letting go of those negative beliefs that are holding, that you're allowing to keep your vibration at a lower frequency state. Yes, we are all going through the lifting of, we are all going through the process of lifting our actual frequency.
change and shape and mold in order to get to the host organism. They could be a perfect reflection.
And I think this woman, it's important to actually listen to what she's saying. So I'm going to...
And then you can say, well, why would I? No sense, not beneficial. So
course.
if you are holding on to something that you can see is not to your benefit. If you're holding on to something that you don't...
I think this woman right here, Sky, I think this would be the perfect thing to illustrate what you're talking about, or what was just coming through me. And like I said, I'm kind of disoriented right now when I'm doing this, so I'm not actually completely able to fully answer the question. Like I said, switching back and forth between the physical and the channeled state and this paying attention to what's here, this is kind of disorienting, and I'm trying to actually give you the correct answer. So this person will give you the correct answer.
Prefer. The only way you would ever do that is there must be an unconscious belief you're unaware of that for some reason is making that action seem to actually be to your benefit, even though you know it's not. Because you don't hold on to anything you don't believe to be to your benefit. So if you are holding on to something that you can see is not to your benefit, yet you keep doing it, you have to get in touch and find out what that belief must be, because this goes back to what we call the motivational mechanism. This mechanism means you will always choose in the direction of what you believe to be.
Ultimately, everything that you use, everything in physical reality, all experiences, all people, are all just permission slips that you're giving yourself an experience and permission to actually have an experience. The biggest thing I would say, if you're starting to deal with higher level energies, it's important to remain grounded in your energies so you do not fly off into the cosmos.
To your benefit, and you will always move away from what you believe is not to your benefit. So if you see yourself, once you understand that mechanism, if you see yourself choosing in the direction of what is not beneficial, that must mean you have a belief attached to it that makes it seem more beneficial than the alternative, even though you know the alternative would actually be to your benefit. So you have to find out how you're defining that thing you know is not beneficial to make it appear to be more beneficial than the alternative. So you can ask yourself things like, what would I have to believe is true in order to keep choosing something like this? You can ask, what am I...
So Sky, what I would say is, what are you getting out of the experience with meditating with a pot in your head? What are you getting out of that experience? Is it helping you in some way? Is it hindering you?
Am I afraid will happen if I actually stop choosing this? And those kinds of questions can help reveal the belief to you, expose it, bring it into the light, make it conscious so you can identify it. Because once you really identify, consciously identify a belief that is negative, that is out of alignment with your true vibration, it will suddenly appear absolutely illogical, absolutely nonsensical, and as soon as it appears nonsensical, it's gone. That's not the beginning of the process of letting it go. As soon as something appears to make no sense, that's the end of the process. It's gone. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. And then obviously the unconscious belief becomes a choice for some of us, because some people will still choose to continue going that route.
Hence the importance of asking the question, because if you understand that this is...
I have not watched the Pyramid of Power yet. I gotta wait till I get paid for my new job so I can actually pay for a few things that I've been wanting to get for a little bit. I just don't have the money to pay for that at the moment.
Is becoming a choice. Now you have something to work with. Now you're in...
It is on my list. I'm just allow things to happen in their own timing.
Empowered to deal with it. Where if you just say, oh, it's a habit, it's a pattern, I can't help it, you're lost. You have nothing to work with. But when you understand that...
Oh, so Sky, what I would say, if you're having a lot of electromagnetic interference, go out into nature. Go out into the middle of the woods and meditate, because usually the electromagnetic interference is way less if you're having trouble with that. Get away from machines for a while so you can actually... Also making sure that you ground your energy while you're doing it, because that's actually the biggest thing, because that usually drowns out like a majority of the side effects that come from electromagnetic interference.
The habit is something you do you don't know you're doing, then you understand that as soon as you are aware of the habit, it's not a habit anymore, it's a choice. And then you can say, well, why would I make that choice? Now you're on the path to discovering the belief and letting it go. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Does that help?
Of course.
Oh, all right. Anything else?
Yes.
Yes.
In terms of, I'm working with people that very often are affected by bacterial parasitic infections.
Yes.
That obviously they perceive that limit their lives, so they're not able to live to their full potential. What is the purpose of creatures like parasites in our life?
You have to take it on a case-by-case basis because everything serves a purpose. And you have to take it on each person's basis as to why they would attract themselves to that experience symbolically. What it does for them to have that experience if they're looking at it that way. No pun intended.
And obviously, from a more general perspective, in terms of our planet Earth having beings like that present, like parasites and bacteria, what's the purpose?
Well, again, you're creating your reality. And if you understand that you are harboring belief systems that limit you,
If you're very sensitive to like energetic interference or energy in general, if you have too much electrical equipment around you at any given time, there's actually a thing of essentially electromagnetic poisoning. So it's learning to ground that energy out and also detoxifying by taking some time away from YouTube.
then there will be reflections of that in the outer reality.
Okay.
No, like I said, at this time, I'm not really taking money from anyone, and I'm not at the point of monetizing my channel. Like, I have to get hours and yada yada yada. I'm not really wanting to take money for where I am sitting currently. I appreciate that.
Does that make sense?
Then
Yes,
it's
of course
good
it
that
does.
we're
And
watching
it's always
this.
going to be a choice, obviously, because parasitic infections is just handing your power over to someone else and not believing that you're capable.
That's
is that
usually
correct?
the origin of
Yeah.
it energetically, yes.
Okay.
Now, once you create that origin point energetically, because you believe you are actually experiencing a real physical reality, there is going to be a physical component that will manifest as a reflection of the deeper energetic belief.
So keep this in mind. If you have a fear of things like, oh, say a spider, or snakes, or parasites, or a fear of drowning, a lot of times those things do carry over from your counterparts that died in those ways.
But in that case, then, sometimes those reflections, such as parasites, can actually be those helpers helping you to transform.
I can do a Patreon. I just, for the moment, I'm just still pretty small time, and I'm just kind of getting the hang of this. And I appreciate that you guys want to, or that you guys actually want to donate. I thoroughly do appreciate that. Right now, I'm not doing a Patreon. Probably sometime in the near future I will, but for now, I just want to. I'm still getting the hang of how to do these things because the format is starting to evolve where I'm channeling while the thing is going on. So it's kind of like, I don't know what the format's going to look like, just to be honest with you. Like, half doing Bashar, half me channeling stuff, like taking questions. I don't know what this is going to look like, but I do know that I'm going through a process that I don't know what things are going to look like, and I'm not unsure of it currently. So
Form that belief.
That's
Because
what-
sometimes many people on your planet have a difficult time finding those beliefs. But when they have a physical experience, it's easier for them to assess what's going on. It's something they can get a hold of, and it's something they can deal with and work on more easily than keeping it in what they consider to be a nebulous form of energy.
That's what just came to me, actually, that the parasites, because they have an ability to change and shape and mold in order to get to the host organism, they could be a perfect reflection for us to see how easy it can be for us.
Yes. And again, it's also a reflection of the fact that negative beliefs will actually, like any belief, do anything they can to perpetuate themselves and make themselves seem real. So in that sense, you could say, not meaning this in a judgmental way, that negative beliefs are designed to be parasitic.
Yeah, true.
Make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, does that help?
Yes, massively.
Well, thank you.
Could I ask one?
yeah, that's actually what I was saying. I need to have a separate person that does the chat stuff for me, so I'm not so I'm able to just be in the channeling state and go back and forth more fluidly currently, I do not have another person to do that with.
More questions.
That was a question. So I guess you've used it up. You don't have to ask if you can ask.
Okay.
If it is inappropriate for us to deal with the issue you raise, we'll tell you.
I would love to go back through a bunch of these old transmissions and just get a whole slew of him just saying, we cannot answer this question this time. Because there's been a bunch of those over the years, and then when people ask the right question or the right person asks the question, it ends up bringing like this whole slew of new information through.
Of course. I had dreams of that I'm part of the hybridization program, so I just wanted to ask if they were confirmation of what actually is going on.
Yes.
Who is the father of my
Bye-bye.
children? Thank you.
And by the way, what makes you think there's only one father?
I thought that.
So any of you guys who ask about like hybrid children, it's a mixture of DNA from all over the world. It's not just like immediate people that you know, or it's a mix.
Next.
Hi, Bashar.
Hey, you good.
If any of you guys are, well, ZZZ, throw me a friend request on Facebook or send me a link and we can chat later. I just need to have someone that's willing to like be the chat moderator for me.
Day.
I'm so grateful to be here and to be here.
So Kobe, I would ask you, what have you gotten from the experience and what have you learned from the experience of being afraid of parasites? What about it, that experience has actually taught you to, this is something I want everyone who's watching this right now, the few people that are watching it, when you have these experiences about things you fear, is ask yourself, what am I learning right now? I mean, that should be the very first thing that you're going through. Like anytime, just about anytime you're sick or you're experiencing things that are stopping you from moving it forward, it's usually getting you to slow down in order for you to actually start asking yourself these kind of questions.
In Sedona, where your ship is, or above, your ship is above. And I am just so inspired by the body of work that you and Daryl have co-created over the years, because it's really made my heart sing and feels like it's fed my soul on so many levels.
All right, well, we thank you for allowing us to be a part of that process, but remember, you're the one making the choice to incorporate this energy in your life.
And just like what he just said, that's actually why that's why I'm doing this. I'm not here to be the end all be all of pretty much anything, actually. I'm just here to help everyone understand this stuff more clearly.
So we didn't do it, you did. But we...
Kobe, it's not coming through currently. Like that energy is not coming through at the moment, so I can't answer those questions.
We are happy to participate in giving you some options.
Well, we're happy at your passion, too, to be with us.
Absolutely, or I wouldn't be doing it.
All right.
And remember, it is my passion to do this, whether you listen or not.
All right. Well, I have a sort of a series of multi-layered questions about telepathy.
Yes.
And I feel like as a human, I don't have very much experience.
Absolutely, John. That's actually why we're doing this, is to strengthen the possibility of the things happening that we want to experience.
About it. And so I wondered if you could share your experience and perspective on that, and then tell us how the hybrid races and your race have become so adept at it. Is there ways that we could become more adept.
Well, of course. Do you understand, since you're using the term telepathy, do you understand the principle on which it works?
Well, I'm assuming there's feelings as well as pictures of thoughts.
There can be, but the basis, the key, is in the idea of the word empathy. In other words, when you match the frequency of another closely enough, you have the same thoughts at the same time. You're not reading.
I don't really actually have questions like I used to. Like, I've gotten most of my questions that I used to have, like for Bashar, answered, and I actually have more of a personal connection at this point that I don't need to really go ask someone else for the answers. I can just kind of get the information myself at this point. But yeah, no, that's... I'm assuming that's you.
Their mind, you're on the same wavelength, and therefore you're translating reality in the same way, and that translates into having the same thoughts simultaneously. That's what telepathy is. The easiest way, in a sense, the strongest way to match the vibration of someone else is to be in love with them. That's why you see that people who are in love often know exactly what each other is thinking without saying a word, because they're on the same wavelength, because they're in love. So our entire civilization is in love with every member of the civilization.
Don't get me wrong. I would love to actually go down to Sedona and to the Bashar transmission down there. I actually have a bunch of stuff going on right about that time that's going to cost me a bunch of money to go do. So it's kind of like you got to kind of pick and choose the things you want to do. We're creating a community by connecting with each other in a way that's more of a collective manner.
So when you learn to love yourself unconditionally, you will then start to love others.
So I have not, and I actually have looked somewhat amount. I'm gonna do a session sometime soon where I ask someone about that specifically, because it's a little easier to ask questions like that if if I'm asking the question to someone else. I don't have the answer for Torterra yet, or the Tartara. So, yeah.
Unconditionally, you will all fall in love. You will all be telling.
I live in Portland, Oregon. I live about a day or two drive from there, and I am right where I need to be right now.
Empathing. That's how it works. Now, when we say unconditionally, that doesn't mean that you don't have preferences. It doesn't mean you condone things that are out of integrity. That's not what that means. It means you recognize what is, and at the same time...
Yeah, I've actually looked for it myself. I spent like an entire day and a half after... it was you or someone else who actually... who asked the question where they said, ooh, look up the city of Tatara. But I actually want to just get straight answers, and I need to actually... I have some questions that I'm building up for a session I'm going to do with someone sometime soon. So I will bring those answers through when I get them. But for now, I don't have any answers about that.
You accept unconditionally that there might be some lessons.
Yes, I live in the northwest of America. The city of roses.
There to be learned that you might be able to help.
There's
with or
always
not,
connections.
But nevertheless, you are compassionate enough and unconditional enough to accept that there is always something that can be gotten out of anything if you act yourself as a primary example of how that can be done, then others can see in you ways they can also choose to elevate their own vibration and become more telepathic as well. But it all starts with loving yourself.
I do not currently have that connection or that information. I am not, like, the energy is not coming through at the moment to be able to actually ask the questions currently. I am still pretty new at the whole channeling thing. So a lot of the information I just don't have access to yet. So just stick with me. This is going to get more. I got to make it through this next little bit so I can. The other thing about asking questions, like more questions in the future and more of these sort of transmissions or these live streams, is I need to find a second person to ask questions for me and be kind of a chat moderator and just be able to talk to me so I can just be in the state and not have to switch back and forth.
Yes?
Yes.
Because if you don't love yourself, how can you possibly love anyone else?
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, does that answer your question?
Well, I just wondered about that component of how you became so good that hybrid races like the Yael, the Pleyel,
Yes.
and their Essassani.
Yes. Well, it was a process, and it involved many different things, one of which we have talked about learning to become lucid in our dreams so that we could go to what we call the template level
Speaking of, I'm going through that process right now, getting better at this whole channeling thing.
reality, where you design the experience of your physical reality, and by becoming lucid about that, changing things.
So this is something to ask yourself when it comes to Bashar or anything I bring through Ryo. Usually if you feel a connection to go do something, there's something there for you to learn. So just take some time and explore it and go into it and see what you learn by going through the experience of actually making the connection. And by the way, the answer for most things is usually yes. Do I have hybrid children? Generally speaking, if you're watching these with me or you've been Bashar, Ryo, or any of them, the answer is yes, you do. Like, just take it as that and don't worry about how many or what your frequency is, because that stuff's going to come through and will be higher if you just kind of go live your life however you're going to live it.
So that we could become more lucid in the physical dream. And by becoming more lucid in the physical dream, we learned that we are all connected. We learned that it is really actually
I appreciate
the best
that,
possible
John.
survival mechanism to love yourself and everyone else as much as you possibly can. Therefore, the idea of expressing unconditional love is actually the strongest survival mechanism, and the one that allows for you to grow and expand and evolve.
Is there a way that we could practice it with other people? Would that be good, or is it something that you
I would love to do that.
internally?
You can do it however you wish. That's up to you, whatever works for you. Although, obviously, at some point, you're going to express it to other people, yes?
Yes.
All right. But there are many paths. There's not just one, in that sense, in terms of the ways in which you can lead yourself into that experience.
Not at this time. I'm still at a point where I'm not ready to go out there like that. I'm doing this as a way of practicing vocal channeling myself, as well as just kind of hanging out and watch Bashar stuff with you guys. So, and yes, absolutely, I live in Portland. I've lived here my whole life. I'm a Portland native.
Because you're all different. You all have different beliefs. Use what works for you. You understand the concept of permission slips, yes?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Well, then use them.
I mean, for God's sakes, look at my
Okay.
shirt.
Instead of asking what to do, create your own permission slip that works best for you.
All right.
Yes?
Yes,
Does that sound like fun?
it does. I'm very excited
All right,
about
then
all of it.
please go have some fun.
And Daryl lives in San Francisco. We both live in places where we can just kind of be ourselves and no one gives a shit.
All right, will do. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Good day, Bashar.
And you good day.
I have a question for you
Oh, well, thank
concerning a particular personal experience that I had,
Yes.
or that I had multiple from the time I was around 16 to 18.
Yes.
As I was sleeping, during
Does this involve visitations?
I I don't know if it's a visitation
Or-
It's a visitation. Come on, like it's pretty obvious. Like he got abducted. A lot of us have had experiences where we got been taken, but we don't necessarily remember having those experiences.
experience that I had while I was sleeping is I've always had very lucid dreams where I was consciously aware while I was sleeping that I was having a dream and I could do things
Yes.
in my dream
That's what we're talking about.
that I wanted to do. So, but in this particular situations that I had, I would have a dream that I was frozen, that I was kind of
He got shifted to a reality that was slightly out of phase with the reality he was in, and it's also the transitional process for when they actually take you and abduct you and go do whatever they need to and then put you back.
paralyzed
Yes.
and I couldn't move.
This is a typical symptom of being shifted to another dimensional reality, but still thinking you're in your own reality and trying to move in the same old way you're used to. When you can't do that in another dimension, you have to move differently. It's something that is sometimes actually done on purpose by certain beings who may assist you in shifting to another dimension so that
Yes.
you will wind up in the dimension that they would like you to wind up in instead of going spinning off into some other dimension.
Well, that's good.
It's sort of a stabilization process,
Okay.
but that's usually a symptom of shifting dimensions.
Okay, shifting dimensions. I had done some research and I had found something that said I could have been a process of DNA being taken.
Not yet. They've come to you in dream time, but you haven't met them in person yet.
In the moment, or
Yes.
And it'd be the Shalanai. The Yael are a completely different species from the Shalanai. The Shalanai are the hybrid species, or the hybrid children.
Yes. That's why I asked you if we had visitation.
okay, well, I guess I did.
Yes, you do.
Leroy.
And so, what do you want to do with that information?
I
How do you
was-
want to apply that in your life?
I mean, I kind of already knew it happened. I just wanted confirmation.
You have it.
Thank you very much.
Anything else?
I was curious if my current girlfriend was part of a hybridization program.
Yes.
We are assessing whether it is appropriate to answer you or not. Yes,
Okay,
but that's all you'll get.
that's all I want.
All right.
Thank you very much, Bashar.
Thank you. There must be something interesting going on with your technology because after every time we say thank you, there's this.
Okay, I'm going to probably end this part here for the time being. So I want to take one more question if I could. If you guys would like to, I'll take one more question. Just let's see. Give me a second. Ask the question in the chat. One person. I'm gonna get off here in a second after I answer the question, or after it comes through and answers the question. But just yeah. Because I actually got one more. I got a session I got to do in about an hour, and I need to be in a coherent state before that happens. So please, dear God, I would love to answer one more question for you guys. If you would also like to watch more of this, and I'm going to do another stream of the second part of it here, sometime here, probably in the next few days. But yeah. Give me a second. Let me kind of switch into the state and see if I can get something to come through. She's fire energy, just based off of what you're saying. Give me a second. You have many different twin flames, but not as you know 'em. A twin flame is anyone that reflects to you what you need to know in the moment. You are your own twin flame. We are working on our end to adjust the conduit's energy to facilitate the connection more easily for him. One moment. We are facilitating the connection to be able to transition more easily for him to be able to connect in a much more deliberate manner in a much more consistent basis from this point forward. In this small collective that he is engaging with, that will be growing, we will facilitate the connection in different ways soon. He just needs to be able to practice the connection more thoroughly in order to have a much cleaner connection. As we read it right now, many of you that are here currently do have hybrid children and are on the path to open contact. He is just here to facilitate the connection for you. We will adjust these transmissions to facilitate a cleaner connection for those who need to connect in this way. Please stand by. Cool. That was much easier to take than what happened last week. Cool. Wow, I'm not as in a euphoric state, but that was a much better connection than last week. Yeah, so there's going to be more of these to come. We'll watch more Bashar. I'll bring through what I can, and I'm going to start looking for a person to sit there and be the chat moderator, and I can just do the channeling thing, and then yada yada yada. But just stay tuned for more of these kind of transmissions and these more of these streams, and I'll talk to you guys soon. It's fantastic spending time with you. And Sky, feel free to add me on Facebook if you would. You live here in Oregon, so we're on the same time zone. And also Aziz, I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys soon.